News of the Warriors interviewing and hosting Dwight Howard for a workout has been dominating the NBA lately, and there's a good reason why. After losing in the second round of last season's playoffs, the depth at center has been a glaring issue for the franchise. Hey, what's happening, everyone? This is Switch Culture. As soon as the Warriors season concluded after they lost to the Lakers in 6 games, it was obvious what needed to be done. With general manager Bob Myers stepping down, the team quickly promoted assistant general manager Mike Dunleavy Jr. to the position so they could get to work. They immediately threw their hat in the ring for floor-stretching big and 6'10" Dario Saric, whom agreed to sign with the team on a minimum contract after about a week. While Saric checks some of the boxes including size, shooting, and rebounding, there still remained the issue of vertical spacing and rim protection. Defense was going to be a key factor going forward because this was one of the biggest problems with the team last year. Sights were set on JaVale McGee as well as Dwight Howard. The Warriors' slow-footedness, however, got the best of them when JaVale, who was waived by the Mavs, decided he was going to book it with the Warriors' crosstown rival in Sacramento. This seemed like just the move the Kings had been waiting on, as former coach Mike Brown had a great relationship with McGee and sought to continue that with the Kings. Despite the fact that the Kings had no shortage of size, they preferred McGee and dropped both Nehemiah Queta, one of the top-ranked bigs in the G League, as well as Nerlens Noel, another defensive-minded big. The Warriors were expected to go after at least one of them, but Queta signed in Boston and the jury's still out on Noel. There has been no traction on that front, which leads me to believe any path for the Warriors to Noel is dead. But all wasn't lost. With 3 two-way spots available, the Warriors used one of those to quickly snatch up big man Usman Garuba, a native from Spain who's got a few years under his belt. But a bit more on him later. Now, there is one particular big man the Warriors have been eyeing this summer, and once news dropped that the Warriors wanted to host Dwight Howard for a workout, this sent shockwaves across the NBA. Not because of how great Howard's career has been, but for the simple fact that it might not be so easy to score on the Warriors with a player like Howard in the paint. Now, let's dive into this big update on the Warriors acquiring Dwight Howard, as this power move is imminent. Just don't forget to like the video and subscribe to Switch Culture for the most analytical and entertaining NBA content. So without further delay, let's get to it. As early as last week, it was announced that the Warriors were going to be hosting Dwight Howard for a workout this week. This was the Warriors' latest offseason movement following the team missing out on JaVale McGee and signing Spanish player Usman Garuba to a 2-way contract. Although he's Spanish, Garuba's parents are actually from Nigeria, and 6 days ago, the Warriors officially added him to the roster. He's quite an intriguing player as he was available in the 2021 NBA draft and was one of the players some inside the War Room wanted the team to draft with the 14th pick, which the Warriors ended up using to draft Moody. The Houston Rockets ended up selecting him with the 23rd overall pick.
With the 23rd pick in the 2021 NBA draft, the Houston Rockets select Usman Garuba.
Now, after representing Spain in the FIBA World Cup where he averaged 8 points and 4 rebounds, the Warriors have both Garuba and Moody. The downside to selecting Usman, unfortunately, is the fact that he's only 6'8", so he's quite undersized for a big man. Although we'll see rather shortly why even at his height, that's not such a bad thing. Even though he's 6'8", he's got a 7'2" wingspan that enables him to play bigger than he really is. The reason why his height at 6'8" could actually be an advantage is because his game is actually quite similar to Draymond's. He's got excellent defensive instincts and has a knack for being in the right position. In addition to that, on the offensive end, his passing is elite. He's got great vision in the half-court set as well as on the break and can find his teammates on the open floor, not to mention he's got a relentless motor, one of the major qualities you want in a top-tier defender. To top it all off, he isn't afraid to stroke it from deep and take advantage of players sagging off of him. So yes, he may be undersized at center, but seeing what the Warriors did with a 6'6" Draymond Green, imagine if he was 6'8". This is Garuba. So now we see the Warriors' depth at the 5 filling out. We've got Kevon Looney, Dario Saric, Trace Jackson-Davis, and now Usman Garuba. There's now only one need for a complete roster, and that's for Golden State to sign a player that can anchor the defense alongside or behind Draymond Green. That would be Dwight Howard. After the news circulated about the Warriors hosting him for a workout, they did just that on Tuesday and Wednesday of this week, and his workout with the team was so good, he left every last veteran on the squad impressed. As a collective, Draymond Green, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and even Chris Paul have signed off on the Warriors signing Dwight Howard. What makes this more interesting is the fact that we will likely be seeing all 5 of these players on the court at the same time. Now obviously this creates a bit of a conundrum because while every single one of these players is a future Hall of Famer, they're not in their prime. Are the Warriors somehow falling into the same trap as the Lakers did when they took on Russell Westbrook and had the oldest roster in the league? Yes and no. For one, even though it looks like a done deal, we still have to wait for the actual signing. Howard is clearly interested, the players are invested, and all that's left is for Mike Dunleavy to listen to what his core vets are saying and put the ink on the paper. Once that happens, once Dunleavy commits, these guys will start working out to get... Wait, what? This just in, Dwight Howard is headed to LA to work out with Draymond Green and Chris Paul. If there's ever been a green light, it's been lit. They are clearly invested in playing together and are making it clear to the front office. If these 5 players are on the floor at the same time, this could be a deadly lineup for Golden State, and not even because they have size. These 5 guys on the floor at the same time would be the absolute perfect fit. CP3 at 1, Curry at 2, Klay at 3, Dre at 4, and Howard at 5. You did see Chris Paul recently throw down in the All-Star game, and he's not about to slow down. While he's been injured at the most inopportune times in the past, the same could be said for Otto Porter Jr. And look what happened the year he played for Golden State. As long as his time is managed correctly, there's no reason to think he'll be injured for any extended period of time. I don't even need to explain Curry, Klay, or Dre, which brings us to Howard at the 5. He's everything the Warriors should have in the paint considering the floor spacing they create with the Splash Brothers and now Chris Paul. Someone please give this man a knife and fork because Howard will be eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner under the basket. He might as well set up a dining table while he's at it. Now, for the most ridiculous part of this video. If the Warriors start those 5 guys, what happens to our bench? Yeah, the bench. Now, I admit this isn't a likely scenario, but this is Steve Kerr we're talking about, so I'm giving it a 75% chance of happening. Imagine being a bench player and having to face a guy like Andrew Wiggins, whom the Warriors will still have available to come in with the second unit. It doesn't always make sense to start with your best individual players when you can use a different player who's a better fit, and then stagger your best players for the maximum effect. This is what the Warriors did at times when they had KD. Now obviously Wiggins isn't KD, but he's still an extremely talented player, and regardless of the lineups, the Warriors will have one very talented player coming off the bench, maybe even more. Now here's a mouth-watering lineup and rotation, if there ever was one. Let's say Howard gives the Warriors 3 minutes to start, and Wiggins comes in at the 9-minute mark. Dre switches to the 5, and the Warriors run a deadly small ball lineup with Dre rolling and Wiggins cutting, plus Curry and Klay on the wings. CP3 subs out after 6 minutes, and Looney coming in at the same time would switch up the Warriors offense with Dre dropping back to the 4, and Curry is now the point guard. The Warriors just reverted to the best 5-man lineup in the league from last year. At the 3-minute mark, Dre subs out for Kuminga, Loon subs out for Sarge, and Moody comes in for Klay, leaving you with Curry, Moody, Wiggins, Kuminga, and Sarge going into the second quarter. This is going to put pressure on so many teams because CP3 and Draymond would both be starting in the second quarter. Now, obviously, depending on how motivated these guys are, you may make a switch, but there's definitely a path forward for Golden State with these guys on the roster. Now, if you guys saw my previous video on the Warriors having a big problem, that problem will likely continue as long as Steve Kerr is the coach. But we at least see something changing here at Golden State as they go back to adding some more size to the team. The Dwight Howard signing would mean that Mike Dunleavy Jr. has had enough of the lack of depth in the front court. That has been the Warriors' major issue because the team has been forced to play small ball whenever Loon or Wiseman was injured. In the case of Wiseman, that was for most of his time in Golden State. If the Warriors are solely dependent on small ball this season and they still lose, there might be problems for Steve Kerr. When you get to the point where you're playing a 6'6" Juan Toscano Anderson at center, then you know you've got a problem. Clearly the veteran core recognizes that problem and they agree with what needs to be done to fix it. Now Draymond had a few things to say about everything that's been going on with word getting out about the Dwight Howard workout. While it dredges up memories of what happened with Poole last year, what truly matters is that this is sort of a way of confirming what's been going on inside Golden State. Snagging Dwight Howard seals the crack in the Warriors defense and opens up a few slots on offense. For my final thoughts, Dwight is a good fit for the team. I know a lot of you would prefer if the team signed McGee, but he was almost not an option for Golden State as he wasn't too enticed by what the team offered. Could they have done more to acquire JaVale? Perhaps, but that's water under the bridge. Considering the remaining players available, you have to realize that the team looked at their options, including Derek Favors, Tony Bradley, Dwayne Dedmon. They knew the Kings let go of Nerlens Noel and Nehemiah Queta, and Blake Griffin along with Myers Leonard weren't even being considered. This means if they don't get Dwight Howard, this team is going to be waiting for another miracle after the season begins to sign a player, possibly on a buyout. The problem is, teams have stocked up on big men and there just aren't that many available. This has been hurting the Warriors for years. This especially hurts when the Warriors play the Denver Nuggets. Considering Jokic is in his prime, the Warriors will need a guy like Howard to force Jokic to either go through him or kick the ball out on the perimeter. Just for a potential playoff matchup with the Nuggets alone is enough to validate Howard's signing with Golden State. Everything else, including a matchup with the Lakers, would just be dividends at that point. As dominant as small ball has become over the years, this is all the proof you need that the big man is still a big part of any successful NBA team, and the Warriors need to fortify their front court with the rim protection they can get from Howard, baggage or not. Let me know if you think the Warriors can contend this year with Howard, and if you think he's the better option as compared to Nerlens Noel, who's really the only other player I'd consider at this point to round out the Warriors' front court depth. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to Swish Culture, and turn on all your notifications so you don't miss any of my latest uploads. Thanks for watching. Till next time. Swish.